When you're eyeing a premium ultra-wide monitor, the hesitation usually comes from two places: the fear of overpaying for hype and the worry that the screen will look impressive on paper but feel out of step in everyday use. That's why I'm going to walk through the MSI MPG 341CQR X36 the way a buyer would, looking at how the panel actually behaves when you're gaming, streaming, or just scrolling through work windows, and whether its price really matches the benefit you'll notice day to day. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the mpg 341CQR sits in the ultrawide 34-inch class with a 3440x1440 resolution and a 1800R curvature that promises a more immersive field of view. It's built around MSI's 5th generation KD panel, which is the same technology you'd find in high-end TV OLEDs, but squeezed into a monitor format. The KD claim isn't just marketing jargon. It translates into deep blacks and a color volume that stays vivid even at the very edges of that curve. For a gamer who spends hours in dark shooters or in competitive titles where a single shadow can hide an opponent, that consistent contrast can actually give you a slight edge in spotting details that a traditional VA panel might smear. The headline spec that catches most eyes is the 360Hz refresh rate paired with a 0.03 milliseconds response time. In a perfect world, that would mean buttery smooth motion and zero ghosting, even in frantic esports titles. In practice, the monitor does deliver an impressively fluid feel, but there's a nuance most reviewers skip over. The benefit is most noticeable when you're running a GPU capable of pushing frame rates above 200 frames per second consistently. If you're on a mid-range card that tops out around 120,150 frames per second, you'll still see smoother motion than a 144Hz panel, but you won't be exploiting the full 360Hz bandwidth. So the real value of that refresh rate is tightly linked to the rest of your rig. Another practical advantage is the HDR implementation with constant brightness. MSI's HDR with constant brightness technology tries to smooth out the typical auto brightness leveling, ABL, that can cause the picture to flicker between bright and dim scenes. In a test of a fast-moving sci-fi trailer, the monitor kept the overall luminance stable while still letting highlights pop, which means you won't be jolted by sudden brightness spikes while you're mid-game. That's a small comfort that adds up during marathon sessions. Connectivity is where the mpg 341CQR starts to feel like a workstation hub rather than a single-purpose gaming screen. It offers both DisplayPort 2.0 and HDMI 2.1, each capable of carrying the full 3440x1440 signal at 360Hz, so you can hook a next-gen console or a high-end GPU without compromise. The USB-C port delivers up to 98W of power delivery, which is enough to charge a laptop while you're using the monitor as a primary display. If you have a mobile workstation or a MacBook Pro, you can essentially replace a docking station plug in the cable, and you're powered, video-driven, and have data lines for peripherals. The built-in KVM switch lets you toggle between two computers with a single keyboard and mouse, which is a genuine time-saver for people who game on a desktop and work on a laptop in the same space. Now, let's talk about the hidden trade-offs. OLED panels, even KD, are prone to image retention if static UI elements sit on the screen for too long. MSI mitigates this with OLED Care 3.0, an AI-driven pixel shifting and luminance adjustment system that runs in the background. In my day-to-day usage, keeping a chat window open while gaming, or having a spreadsheet on one side of the screen, the panel never showed noticeable burn-in after weeks of mixed use. However, the Care system does introduce a faint, almost imperceptible ripple when you stare at a pure black screen for an extended period. It's a minor distraction but worth knowing if you plan to use the monitor for long static content like CCTV feeds or stock tickers. Another practical consideration is the price point. At the upper mid-four-figure range, the mpg 341CQR competes with both premium OLED TVs and high-refresh gaming monitors. The value proposition hinges on how much you'll actually use the ultra-wide aspect ratio and the KD color fidelity. For a competitive FPS player who values the fastest possible motion handling, the combination of 360Hz and near-zero response time is a clear win, provided the GPU can keep up. For a content creator who needs accurate color for video grading, the wide gamut and consistent HDR performance are a real benefit. But if you're mainly a casual gamer or a Netflix binge watcher, You might find a 144Hz IPS ultrawide monitor or even a standard 27-inch OLED TV delivering comparable enjoyment for considerably less money. Who should buy it? If you have a high-end graphics card, RTX 4090 class or equivalent, a Pangshang for competitive gaming, and you also need a single screen to handle work, design, and entertainment, the miles per gallon 341CQR becomes a versatile centerpiece. The built-in USB-C PD and KVM make it attractive for remote professionals who switch between a desktop workstation and a laptop throughout the day. The monitors.